Minato Namikaze, and Itachi Uchiha. The two shinobi who benefited the most from Edo Tensei were without question Minato Namikaze and Itachi Uchiha. The forbidden resurrection technique didn't just bring them back, it allowed both of them to fight in a state closer to their theoretical peak than they ever could in life. For Itachi, Edo Tensei removed his greatest limitation: his illness. The body that once restricted his stamina and vision was gone. In its place was an immortal vessel with endless chakra regeneration. As a result, Itachi's Susanoo became far more stable and threatening than it had ever been before. More importantly, Edo Tensei gave him the freedom to use techniques he never dared to rely on while alive. One of the biggest examples is Izanami, a forbidden Uchiha technique that rewrites reality at the cost of an eye. While alive, Itachi never used it, likely because the price was too high and his body too fragile. As an Edo Tensei, that limitation no longer mattered. He finally had access to the full Uchiha arsenal, without fear of permanent consequences. What truly makes Itachi terrifying, though, is not raw power, it's unpredictability. Every time he enters a battle, he reveals a new layer of planning. Illusions within illusions, traps within counters. Even against enemies stronger on paper, Itachi consistently controls the flow of combat, forcing opponents to lose before they even realize what's happening. Then there's Minato Namikaze, who somehow became even more broken after death. As an Edo Tensei, Minato not only retained his mastery of the Flying Thunder God technique, but used it faster and more efficiently than ever before. On top of that, he now possessed the yin half of Kurama, granting him immense chakra reserves. Unlike in life, Minato could also use Sage Mode reliably, and even enter Nine-Tails Chakra Mode, creating a form eerily similar to Naruto's later transformations. This version of Minato combined speed, intelligence, tailed beast power, and senjutsu into a single package. His teleportation was faster than Tobirama's, his reactions were instantaneous, and his battlefield awareness was unmatched. Together, Edo Tensei, Minato, and Itachi represent a terrifying truth. Some shinobi were never meant to be balanced. Death didn't weaken them, it completed them. But before we dive in, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if this isn't your first time watching. And now, let's get right into it. Orochimaru. Orochimaru earns the number 2 spot. And honestly, this is where a lot of people underestimate him. Even within the Akatsuki, Orochimaru was often treated as a problem waiting to be solved. During their meetings, members casually discussed who would eventually kill him, as if his defeat was inevitable. But that perception completely ignores one critical factor: preparation. When Orochimaru is given time to plan, experiment, and set the board, he is almost impossible to deal with. Orochimaru was resurrected during the Fourth Great Ninja War, not as a pawn, but as a key piece in uncovering the truth of the shinobi world for Sasuke. After returning, he revived the first 4 Hokage using white Zetsu bodies as vessels. Even though Hashirama proved difficult to fully control, Orochimaru had no trouble suppressing the other 3 Hokage. What makes this moment especially telling is that Tobirama himself, the creator of Edo Tensei, could do nothing but stand there under Orochimaru's control. What's even more terrifying is the implication behind Orochimaru's research. The vast majority of Edo Tensei forces during the war were enhanced with Orochimaru's cells. In theory, if Orochimaru wanted to, he could create an army entirely loyal to himself. Not a village, not an organization. A personal force of immortal shinobi. After Orochimaru's temporary death, Kabuto Yakushi inherited all of his knowledge and then pushed it further. Kabuto didn't just copy Orochimaru's work, he upgraded it. Manda, too, was vastly larger and stronger than the original Manda. Kabuto himself transformed into a monstrous serpent, supported by a far greater chakra reserve, thanks to Orochimaru's remains. Most importantly, Kabuto mastered Sage Mode at Ryuchi Cave, entering Dragon Sage Mode. At that point, Kabuto reached true master-level combat strength, commanding an Edo Tensei army far more dangerous than anything Orochimaru had previously unleashed. And yet, despite all of that, Kabuto was still walking a path that Orochimaru built, which is exactly why Orochimaru stands at number 2. Not because he is the strongest fighter in a direct clash, but because he creates monsters stronger than himself. Might Guy. Before opening the 8 Gates, Guy simply cannot compete with armies of Edo Tensei, shinobi, or god-tier monsters. That much is clear, but once he fully opens the 8 Gates of Death, everything changes. Even in his normal state, Guy is already an elite taijutsu master, one of the strongest physical fighters in the shinobi world. His speed, technique, and discipline alone place him among the top-tier ninja. However, when all 8 gates are opened, Guy's power jumps to an entirely different level, approaching 6 Paths territory. During the battle against Madara Uchiha, the allied shinobi forces were completely helpless. Nothing worked. Ninjutsu failed. Strategy failed. Even legendary shinobi could only watch. That was the moment Guy stepped forward and opened the 8 gates, not to win glory, but to carry the entire battlefield on his back. His first direct strike landed cleanly on Madara, and for a brief moment, something unthinkable happened. Madara was pushed on the defensive. In that instant, Guy broke past his own limits. Madara himself acknowledged it, declaring Guy the strongest taijutsu user he had ever faced. Against the Ten-Tails Jinchuriki, Guy didn't just survive. He dominated, if only briefly. It's important to remember the cost. Opening all 8 gates guarantees death. There is no survival, no retreat. It is a technique that trades life itself for power. Guy knew this and still chose to activate it. What truly sets Guy apart is his control and endurance. Unlike his father might do, who could only open all 8 gates at once, Guy could progress through the gates deliberately. He used the 7th gate first to test the situation, only activating the 8th gate when it became absolutely necessary. That alone proves his physical resilience is among the highest in the entire shinobi world. Guy isn't ranked here because he's the strongest overall. He's ranked here because for one moment, through sheer will and discipline, he reached a level that even gods were forced to respect. Senju Hashirama. If we judge purely by what we saw during the 4th Great Ninja War, Hashirama's performance does not look as overwhelming as Might Guy's 8 gates moment. Even Madara himself stated that Hashirama was significantly weaker in his Edo Tensei state compared to when he was alive. The reason is simple. Edo Tensei did not truly enhance Hashirama. Madara was heavily boosted with the Rinnegan Hashirama's cells and 6 paths level power. Hashirama, on the other hand, gained only what Edo Tensei normally provides. Increased stamina and regeneration abilities he already possessed at an absurd level while alive. According to Madara, Hashirama was operating at roughly 80% of his original strength. Because of this limitation, he could not use his ultimate technique, true several thousand hands, Shinsu Senju, the Buddha statue capable of overpowering perfect Susanoo, and even subduing tailed beasts. In other words, the first Hokage was not buffed by Edo Tensei, he was partially nerfed. Even so, Hashirama still managed to fight Madara head-on. That alone is the most important detail. Despite lacking his full power, despite Madara being enhanced far beyond his living self, Hashirama remained competitive. Few characters in the entire series could survive even seconds against that version of Madara. Yet Hashirama held his ground. It's also important to remember who Hashirama truly was. He defeated Madara at full strength during their lifetime, captured and controlled multiple tailed beasts, and founded the shinobi system itself. His wood-release chakra reserves and battlefield control were unmatched in his era. Hashirama ranks at number 6, not because he is weaker than those above him, but because the version we saw in the war was not his true peak. If the first Hokage had appeared at full living strength, the entire ranking above him would be open for debate. Kakashi Hatake, without the support of Kakashi Minato and Rock Lee Might Guy, would never have been able to land a decisive blow on Madara. His 8 gates assault was legendary, but it was not a solo achievement. It was a perfectly timed, team-supported moment. This is important to acknowledge, because raw power alone was not enough to touch Madara at that level. By contrast, Hashirama Senju, even before his death, likely stood above 8 gates Guy in overall combat ability. Although Hashirama lost to Madara in the final stages of the war due to circumstance and limitations, his peak strength in life may have surpassed Guy's ultimate form without the fatal cost. Hashirama's power was sustainable absolute and not dependent on self-destruction. However, once Kaguya Otsutsuki entered the battlefield, everything changed. Even 6 paths Naruto and 6 paths Sasuke together were unable to defeat her directly. She was the true progenitor of the shinobi world, an existence far beyond conventional combat logic. At that point, fate intervened. After Kakashi lost his Sharingan, Obito's spirit returned, granting Kakashi temporary access to both Mangekyo Sharingan. This moment elevated Kakashi into an entirely different category. With Obito's chakra and ocular power, Kakashi unlocked the full potential of the Mangekyo in a way that even most Uchiha never could. Despite being a non-Uchiha, Kakashi manifested a perfect Susanoo on his very first use of both eyes, a feat that borders on impossible. This was only achievable because of his lifetime of battlefield experience, chakra control, and tactical mastery. Even among the Uchiha clan, very few ever reached this level. Kakashi didn't just gain power, he used it perfectly. He wielded Kamui Shuriken with precision, and combined Kamui Raikiri to damage Kaguya's supposedly indestructible body. In doing so, Kakashi became the first shinobi in history to make Kaguya bleed after her release from sealing. With the combined effort of Team 7, Kaguya was finally sealed. Although Kakashi could only use this power once in his life, that single moment was one of the most extraordinary displays in the entire series. Because of that performance alone, top 5 is more than deserved for Kakashi Hatake. Obito Uchiha. Before the Fourth Great Ninja War, Obito played the role of a mastermind, hiding in the shadows, rarely showing his true strength. But as the war progressed, especially toward its later stages, Obito finally revealed just how dangerous he truly was. His transformation began when he implanted the Rinnegan into himself. On the second day of the war, as dawn broke, Obito created his own version of the 6 Paths of Pain using reanimated Jinchuriki as his vessels. With them, he clashed directly against Naruto, and the Nine Tails forcing the battlefield into chaos. Then came Madara. Seizing the opportunity, Obito completed the conditions for the infinite Tsukuyomi, with only fragments of chakra from the 8 Tails and 9 Tails. Shortly after, he achieved the impossible, becoming the Jinchuriki of the 10 Tails. From that moment on, Obito ascended into what is known as 6 Paths. Obito, becoming the first character in the main storyline to wield genuine 6 Paths power. As the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, Obito gained access to yin-yang release, overwhelming chakra reserves and physical abilities that surpassed the resurrected Hokage. He openly attacked them without hesitation, proving that he had stepped far beyond the level of ordinary shinobi. However, Obito's 6 Paths form was incomplete. He lacked a significant portion of chakra from both the 9 Tails and the 8 Tails, leaving a massive gap between him and a fully realized 6 Paths being. Naruto and Sasuke, both empowered by 6 Paths chakra and enhanced by Senjutsu, were able to challenge him together. The turning point of Obito's downfall came from a critical limitation. After becoming the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, he could no longer use Kamui. To this day, there is no fully satisfying explanation for this restriction. The confusion is made worse by the fact that Madara later stole Kakashi's Sharingan and still used Kamui without issue, suggesting an inconsistency in the story. If Obito had retained access to Kamui while wielding 6 Paths power, the outcome would have been terrifying. Intangibility, combined with God-tier chakra, would have made him nearly untouchable. In that scenario, Obito wouldn't just be top 4. He would likely be uncontested at number 1. Uchiha Sasuke. After standing on the edge of death, Sasuke encountered the Sage of 6 Paths, Hagoromo Otsutsuki, and this meeting changed everything. Sasuke awakened 6 Paths power, unlocked his unique Rinnegan, and gained access to exclusive space-time abilities that no other Rinnegan user possessed. These techniques became the peak of Sasuke's combat potential after Kaguya was successfully sealed. With Kaguya defeated, Sasuke immediately turned his attention to what he believed was the true problem of the shinobi world. He began his personal purification plan by placing all the tailed beasts under genjutsu, suppressing them with absolute control. He then sealed them inside Chibaku Tensei, effectively removing every major source of military power from the world. Sasuke declared that he alone would shoulder all hatred, positioning himself as a single enemy for humanity to unite against. He claimed that once he eliminated the current 5 Kage, he would maintain peace through fear and eventually release the infinite Tsukuyomi on his own terms. In Sasuke's mind, this was the only way to break the endless cycle of war. To enforce his vision, Sasuke unleashed Indra's arrow, channeling the chakra of all 9-tailed beasts into a single, overwhelming attack. This was his ultimate technique, designed to end everything in one decisive blow. Power-wise, Sasuke stood at the absolute peak of the shinobi world at that moment. However, he wasn't alone. Naruto opposed him not with ideology but with conviction. Despite Sasuke's god-tier power, the final battle ended in a draw. Sasuke failed to kill, Naruto failed to enforce his revolution, and ultimately failed to carry the world's hatred by himself. In the end, Sasuke was brought back not by force but by understanding. After losing his arm and his purpose, he abandoned his path of domination and chose atonement instead. From revolutionary to wanderer, Sasuke became the shadow protector of the shinobi world, a fallen god who chose to walk among humans once more. Uzumaki Naruto. Just like Sasuke, Naruto received an absolutely insane power-up from Hashirama Otsutsuki, but the way Naruto used that power made him something truly special. He gained access to six-path sage power, allowing him to fly, wield truth-seeking orbs, and freely use all five elemental natures, along with yin-yang release. On top of that, he was blessed with an almost absurd amount of six-path chakra, so much that it felt practically endless. With this power, combined with the chakra of Kurama, Naruto evolved into one of the strongest beings the world had ever seen. His strength wasn't just destructive, it was stabilizing. Naruto could heal others, empower allies, and fight on multiple fronts at once without slowing down. Where others used godlike power to dominate, Naruto used it to protect. This all culminated in the final battle at the Valley of the End. Naruto faced Sasuke head-on, not to kill him, but to bring him back. Despite Sasuke wielding the combined power of the tailed beasts, and Naruto pushing his own limits to the absolute brink, Naruto refused to give up. In the end, Naruto succeeded. He didn't overpower Sasuke with hatred or ideology. He dragged him back with pure willpower, empathy, and stubborn determination. The price was heavy. Both of them lost an arm, permanently marking the end of their rivalry and the beginning of a new era. Naruto didn't just become the strongest shinobi alive, he became the embodiment of hope itself. A man who reached god-tier power and still chose humanity. Uchiha Madara, the self-proclaimed god of shinobi, the man who stood alone at the very peak of the ninja world. When the Fourth Great Ninja War began, Madara did not return as part of an army. He came back from hell by himself, and that was already more than enough. From the moment he stepped onto the battlefield, he dismantled the allied shinobi forces like they were nothing more than training dummies. Thousands of elite ninja were crushed effortlessly. He fought the Five Cage at the same time, and didn't just survive, he completely dominated them. Each Kage represented the highest authority and strength of their village, yet together they still failed to stop him. Madara didn't merely defeat his enemies, he humiliated them. Eventually, he even overcame his eternal rival Senju Hashirama, the so-called god of shinobi, a legend feared across generations. Yet even Hashirama fell before him. Later, Naruto and Sasuke returned, empowered by the Six Paths Sage himself, and managed to push Madara back, dealing serious damage. But what most people forget is that Madara was still incomplete at that point. He did not yet possess both Rinnegan. Once Madara reclaimed his second Rinnegan from Obito, his power leaped into an entirely different realm. Space-time, life, and death, all bent to his will. In that state, Madara fought Six Paths Naruto and Six Paths Sasuke simultaneously, and did so without real difficulty. He wasn't struggling, he wasn't desperate, he was completely in control, if not for Black Zetsu's betrayal, striking him from behind at the moment of victory. The outcome of that battle would have remained uncertain. Madara was not defeated by strength, but by betrayal and inevitability of fate. That alone says everything. Uchiha Madara stands as the strongest ninja in the entire history of the shinobi world. Yes, beings like Kaguya Otsutsuki and Hagoromo Otsutsuki surpass him in raw power, but they are gods, not ninja. The concept of shinobi did not exist until Indra created ninjutsu. And within that system, no one stands above Madara. He is the ultimate shinobi, the final benchmark, the legend. All others are measured against inevitable, overwhelming, and absolute.